asked him to do it about education. They asked him to do research with Burns with Johnson and Plummer to do research in education to figure out what the disruptive innovations were in the classroom. But let's it in perspective. What he starts first talking about is the disruptive innovations so you get a handle of what happened in industry. Does anybody know what a vacuum tube radio is? Again, it ain't. Okay? There was one vacuum tube radio in my house in Marshburg, Tennessee, on Depot Street. Okay? And every night it was on the Grand Ole Opry. Every Saturday night it was on the Grand Ole Opry. During the day, it was on all the time for the local news, the trading, the swap shop. But whenever it had problems, it had big vacuum tubes that Dad would take out, or Mom would take out, and I would even take to the hardware store to test it. The vacuum tube tester. And if you put it in the tester, you got a box, you just buy the tube and replace it and take it back home. We had one vacuum tube radio. I have never owned a vacuum tube radio. I couldn't afford one as a teenager. But there was a radio I could afford as a teenager. You know what kind of radio it was? Transistor, thank you, transistor radio. Had it under my pillow at night. I thought my parents never knew that I listened to music in Chicago, in Tennessee, every night to go to bed. Or that my high school study hall teacher didn't know I was listening to the World Series with the wire in my sleeve into my ear. With a transistor radio that I could afford. Right? Disruptive innovation did away with vacuum tube radios. Flat panel computers instead of the big bulb tube, CTRs, or CRTs. Cathode ray tubes, CRTs. I'm dyslexic too. It's interesting too when you look at the technology. Anybody in here have an 8-track tape player?
I go in
a pickup truck. I put one in my installed one in our car back in the 60s. You know how long 8-track players, tape players lasted? Some of you looking at it, you don't even know what we're talking about. Your kids don't even know what an LP is. Many kids don't even know what long, a vinyl album. But the 8-track was replaced by cassette quickly. What replaced the cassette? CD. Do any of your students now buy CDs? Still buy anything? Files. They download the MP3 file. Now, some of us older people still like to buy the CD, you like the album covers, but you know you can get the album covers and even other things off of Rhapsody or iTunes Music Store. But again, that's the disruptive technology and how it's changing things. According to Christensen, the tipping point for education is going to be 2014. He will talk about it, and there's a couple of good podcasts about implications in higher education. He has told Harvard, who commissioned him to do the research, that their days are numbered. The delivery of quality education has passed them by. You know the largest and fastest growing university in the country? Phoenix. Thank you, Phoenix. University of Phoenix. And it's not just about doing online courses. Because even if you're online, you can provide quality assistance. You can provide touches. Okay? Just last night, I got to see Maya in China with her mom and dad at no cost. So by the way, we did a 3-way to bring in a boy and his wife and their kid in another city. You can have touches to classes. You can have touches to faculty. You can have counseling going on. And what they're doing is more than just online courses. Technology empowers educators. You don't lose your job. It empowers you. But you got to step into it. And so this is a great book about disrupting classes. He talks about the transition of what's happening. The key point he's asked about, and I got to be careful with this, because I don't want to insult anybody. Okay? But I get the question, you know what a netbook is? Okay? What is a netbook? It's a small computer that generally does a couple of things, right? One, it's an internet browser. It's wireless, connects to the internet, and it has productivity tools. Right? You can do word processing and those kind of spreadsheets and even a PowerPoint presentation. There's not a lot more beyond that it does. What it does in the education area, it makes a price cheaper than a regular laptop. It's a cheaper. A Kindle could be in the netbook form, and it's a reader book. When asked on a Education Week interview, Chris Christensen was asked about, is the netbook the disruptive innovation for the laptop? His response was, you could look at it that way. In some places, it's being positioned that way. But he said, the netbook has already been replaced. You with me? In other words, the 8-track cassette has already been passed. We're already now to CDs. Do you know what he said the replacement for the netbook was?
A phone.
Smartphones. He said phones. He said and even to the point that he talked specifically about player devices that were wirelessly connected that did not necessarily have to be phones. He said those devices are already being delivered. There are 65, right?
Right now.
65 of them, and 100 of the kids that are going to get them. And you're going to be connected online on the things that you can do. Even as an old man who doesn't see well or hear well or even smell well with my nose, okay, is that I do my email. I've been traveling today, and it's all been done here. Okay? Excuse me, it's been done here. I lied. On my phone. Okay? Could have been done here because you're wireless here. So he says that tipping point in terms of the devices in education, it continues to move. And even to the point that I can show you on my, and you can see it on your phone, and they did get 3 GSs, right? If you go into the preferences, if you go into accessibility, if you turn on voice, you can have it read to you, everything's on the screen so you hear it. Okay, you with me? So if I select a textbook that's on here, you with me? Technology in terms of how it's changing and the disruption that it's bringing with it. It's a great book. I'd recommend you get it. This is not a product announcement, though we did have a couple of product announcements today. But Friedman did say, if you can think about a change that's going to happen as it relates to technology, and you want to do it, he says do it, because if you're not, somebody else is working on it. So this is not a product announcement, but somebody sent it to me. So all I can say is maybe somebody's working on it.
Allora, come l'ordinatore non è sull'ordinatore, lo scorre sul simulatore, sulle istruzioni, lo cherche sur texte, pour quelques minutes, cliquer, opening, la fois simplificateur et le dessinateur. C'est parti.
Yeah, a transformer laptop. You know, and somebody sent me this, Drew's response to it, and Drew's a techie guy. If anybody can make it happen, he can. His response to it was, you know, somebody's got too much time on it. But the interesting part about it, somebody put together the simulation, the video simulation, that makes it look like it's really real. So people can do that. They can do a mock-up on something. So who knows? Which is an interesting piece we'll get to in just a minute, because I do want to call out a third book to you. And it's specifically addressed to you as leadership for higher education. It's Michael Fullen and Jeff Scott. Does anybody know Michael Fullen? Yeah, Canadian higher ed guy, lots of great research. This is a new book. It just came out a couple of months ago. It's a quick read. It's a tough read because, like Disrupting Class, like some of the presentation, we take a pretty good beating on it. As a matter of fact, in the foreword in this book, Fullen says, elementary school teachers love their students. High school teachers love their content.
Love their what?
University
Content.
content. High school teachers love their content. Their area is math science. University teachers love which? Read the bullet, and you've heard it themselves. Wording the bullet. No. And so when you get into his research, again, you got to do something for yourself because it didn't hire it pretty much you're on your own. You know, and so what he says is more difficult the higher up you get in education to get things done. And the vice chancellor for the Board of Regents in Tennessee for admin is a very close personal friend. David Gregory. As a matter of fact, my wife taught him English in high school. So our families are really close. And when he became a vice chancellor for the region, he said, it's amazing, Kelley, the arguments that go on at the highest level within the universities across the state of Tennessee. And it appears that the significance of what it's about has nothing to do with the importance of the school. In other words, it could be an office with a window. You believe that? An office with a window. Okay. This is what he says in terms of change. In short, the challenge, and I did not realize this, and I don't know the numbers here in terms of your school. You may tell me, but the average dropout in public schools K-12 is about 39%. About 4 of 10 will not graduate high school. They'll drop out. What's the number in terms of universities for students entering as freshmen and graduating in 5 years? Not just 4 years, 5 years. What's your number?
50%.
It's interesting because I've done leadership meetings with private schools. It is. It's about 50%. It's about half. And it's amazing to me, even private universities where mom and dad can pay the check, and they can write the check out and get you in. In private institutions, it's still half. The challenge is keeping them in. Because if there's anything that we're learning now is I can make my millions by using the technology to empower me in this world with the technology. One area. Just one area to look at. So he talks about that one. So his answer to it in the book is the 3 L's. Turnaround leaderships at universities are listening. What they hear, they're reacting to, but they're listening. If it makes sense, they're linking people together that have common issues and trying to find answers, and then he allows them to lead the way. It appears to me, my first day on campus here, that you're having some of that really happen in your place. The ability for you guys to have the opportunity to have smartphones, faculty and staff, is you're listening to somebody. You're linking people together, and you're starting to make a leadership role. It's going to change the way you teach. You're not going to understand. It's hard to explain how it changes things once you start doing it. But that's just the 3 L's. He finishes the statement about modeling, teaching, and learning. And that gets me to the sequence of learning, the CCDA. It is about modeling. It is about teaching. It is about learning. It's the ability to do that. It's the ability to start. You have to start at the bottom of Bloom's taxonomy in terms of, knowledge and comprehension, but the ability to get to the top, the highest level, critical thinking skills, as fast as you can, the HOTS, the higher order thinking skills. So, with that, another quote. You've heard it many times. But as an educator, when I saw this commercial, you've seen it.
I stand before you today to apologize. The system has failed you. I have failed you. I have failed to help you share your talent with the world. The world needs talent more than ever, yet it's being wasted every day by an educational system steeped in tradition and